Match each shape to its correct name. One has been done for you. So this shape is a triangle because it has 3 sides. This shape has 4 sides and the 4 sides are of the same length, so that's a square. This shape here is a pentagon because a pentagon is what we call a shape with 5 sides. And here we have a shape with 6 sides, and a 6-sided shape is called a hexagon. Write these prices in order, starting with the smallest. So we have £20.50, £25, which if it makes it easier, we can write with a .00 on the end to show that we only have £25 and no extra pence. And we also have £2.50 and £20 5 pence. So with ordering money, what we need to remember is that if the number of pounds is more, then that will be more money. So the pence doesn't matter if the number of pounds is different. So £2.50 is our smallest amount. Then we have £20 and 5 pence, and that's less than £20 50 pence, because if we look after the decimal point, here we have a 0, but here we have a 5, so we know that this amount is more. And then our largest value is £25. Circle the number which is closer to 1000. Explain how you know. So we have 996 and 1006. So 996 is closer because that is 4 less than 1000, but 1006 is 6 more than 1000. So 996 has the smaller difference. And what we're really doing when we find the difference, so we find the number that's closer, is we're subtracting. So if we work out 1000 minus 996, we'll get 4. And if we work out 1006 minus 1000, we'll get 6. So because this number has the smaller difference, it only has a difference of 4, we know that 996 is closer to 1000. Kirsty, Seb and Mina made toffee apples to sell at the school fair. They made 80 toffee apples altogether. Kirsty sold 12 toffee apples, Seb sold 25 toffee apples, Mina sold 17. How many toffee apples were left? So we need to find the total of what they sold, so work out 12 plus 25 plus 17, and then if we subtract that from what they made or what they started with, we'll get the number that are left. So we could start by adding 25 and 17, and then we could add 12 to that total, because sometimes with addition it's easier to start by adding the larger numbers. So 25 plus 17 is 42, and if we add the 12 that Kirsty sold, that gives a total of 54 that were sold. But if they started with 80 and sold 54, we can subtract what they sold from what they started with to find the number of toffee apples that were left, and 80 minus 54 is 26. Kirsty sold her 12 toffee apples for 50 pence each. How much money did she collect? Well, if they were 50 pence each and she sold 12, we can work out the total by multiplying 12 by 50 pence. So 12 times 5 is 60, which means 12 times 50 is 600. So she collected 600 pence, which is the same as £6. So that's the amount of money that she collected. We could also solve this by counting up. So if we know that 1 toffee apple is 50 pence, we can double, so 2 toffee apples will be 100 pence or £1, and then to find the total for 12 toffee apples, we can multiply by 6. 2 times 6 is 12, and 1 times 6 is 6. So we know that she collected £6. Here is a number machine. So we can see that 4 plus 3 is 7 times 2 is 14. Here is another number machine. Write the 4 missing numbers. So we have something plus 3 is something, so we can't start at the beginning because there are lots of possible solutions for these. If we look down, we have something times 2 is 42, and then 42 plus 3. So that will give us 45, and then if we multiply that by 2, we get 90 for this missing number here. So how can we find this box here? Well, we have something times 2 is 42, so we can work backwards and divide 42 by 2. That gives us 21. So we know that this box here is 21 because 21 times 2 is 42. And here we have something plus 3 is 21. So again, if we're working backwards, we can work out 21 minus 3, and that gives us 18. Kirsty, Seb, Mina, Jack and Donna belong to a sports club. This table shows the sports they do in 1 week. How many of the children do not go swimming? So we can see that swimming is this row here. And we can see that Seb does not go swimming because his name is not in this row. And Mina also does not go swimming because her name isn't here either. But with Kirsty, Donna and Jack, we have their names in swimming. So it asks how many do not go swimming, so that's Seb and Mina, so that's 2 children. Now write the names of all the children who go both jogging and cycling. So jogging is this row here and cycling this row here. We can see that Seb goes jogging and his name is also in the row for cycling. So Seb goes both jogging and cycling. And we can also see that Kirsty goes jogging and goes cycling. And with Jack, we have him in jogging and also in cycling, so the 3 children are Seb, Kirsty and Jack. Calculate 507 minus 291. So we can set this out as a column subtraction. 7 minus 1 is 6. We can't do 0 minus 9, so we go to the left, 1 less, 1 in front. 10 minus 9 is 1, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So our answer is 216. This square has 2 dots on each side. The dots are equally spaced. Join 2 dots to divide the square into 2 equal parts. So we could join these 2 dots here. Now we've not drawn a line of symmetry, but it's still split the shape in half because we have the same area on this side and on this side. We can see that we have 3 dots on this side of the line and we have 3 dots on this side as well. So we've split the shape in half. But there are other possible answers here. We could join these dots instead because again we still have half on each side. We could join these dots here, or we could join these dots here. Shade 1/4 of this shape. So we need to shade 1 part out of every 4. But this shape isn't split into 4 pieces, it's split into 12 pieces. So to decide how many pieces we need to shade, we need to find a fraction equivalent to 1/4 with a denominator of 12, because then the numerator will tell us how many pieces we need to shade. To find equivalent fractions, we can use multiplication. 4 times 3 is 12, 1 times 3 is 3, so that tells us that we need to shade 3 of our 12 pieces. It doesn't matter which 3 pieces we shade, but as long as we shade 3 pieces, we've shaded 1/4 of the shape, because 1/4 is the same as 3/12. Complete this table to show the numbers rounded to the nearest hundred. one has been done for you. So 316 rounded to the nearest hundred is 300. Now we need to round 3,162 to the nearest hundred. To do that, we need to find our hundreds digit, and that's always the third digit from the right, because we have ones, then tens, then hundreds. To decide whether we're rounding up or down, we look to the right, so we look at our tens digit, and if it's 5 or more, like it is here, we round up. So that means this 1 is going to become a 2. Digits to the left stay the same, so the 3 in our thousands stays the same, and digits to the right of what we've circled turn into zeros. So we have 3,200. Now we need to round 31,628 to the nearest hundred. So again, we find our hundreds digit and look to the right. It's a 2, and if it's 4 or less, like it is here, we round down, which means this number stays the same. Digits to the left of what we've circled always stay the same, and digits to the right turn into zeros, so we have 31,600. And now 316,281. We find our hundreds digit, look to the right, and because it's 5 or more, we round up. And when we round up, the digit that we've circled increases by 1. So this 2 is going to become a 3. The 316 at the start will stay the same because digits to the left stay the same. Digits to the right turn into zeros. So we get 316,300. Kirsty draws this shape on a grid. She turns her grid 1/4 turn clockwise. Draw the shape in its new position after the turn. So a 1/4 turn is a 90-degree turn, and clockwise means we're turning in the same direction as the hands of a clock. So if we take what Kirsty has drawn and turn it 1/4 of the way around, we can see that we need to draw this shape here in its new position. Mina buys 200 grams of cheddar cheese and 150 grams of Edam cheese. How much does she pay altogether? Well, we can see that cheddar cheese is 82 pence for 100 grams, but she buys 200 grams, so we can multiply by 2. 100 times 2 is 200, and 82 pence times 2 is £1.64. So that's how much she spends on 200 grams of cheddar cheese. But she also buys 150 grams of Edam cheese, which we can see is 66 pence for 100 grams. So we can work out how much 50 grams will cost, because 100 divided by 2 is 50, and 66 pence divided by 2 is 33 pence. So now to find 150 grams, we can either add up these totals, or we can multiply 50 grams by 3, because 50 times 3 is 150. 33 times 3 is 99, so she spends 99 pence on Edam cheese. So to work out how much she pays altogether, we need to add what she spends on cheddar cheese to what she spends on Edam cheese. So that gives us £2.63. Now Seb buys some cottage cheese for £1.35. How many grams of cottage cheese does he get? We can see that cottage cheese is 45 pence for 100 grams. If we double that, that means 45 times 2 is 90, so 200 grams would cost 90 pence. And then, to find the cost of 300 grams, we can add the cost of 100 and 200 grams. So that's 90 plus 45, so 135 pence, or £1.35. So that means because he spends £1.35, he must get 300 grams of cottage cheese. Which shape has the longest perimeter? So here we can remember that the perimeter is the distance around the outside of a shape. So first, if we look at shape A, we can count the distance around the outside. So if we remember that we're starting here in the top left, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And now we're back to where we started. So the perimeter of A is 14 of these hexagon lengths. Now, if we do the same for shape B, so again, remembering where we've started, or perhaps drawing a little dot so that we can see where we've started, we can count the distance around the outside, and that will give us 14 as well. But for shape C, we have 18 of these lengths around the outside. For shape D, we have 17, and if we count the lengths around the outside for shape E, we get 16. So that means the shape with the longest perimeter is shape C, because that has the greatest length around the outside. Now it's important that we don't confuse perimeter and area. Remember, the perimeter is the distance around the outside, but the area is the amount of space a shape takes up. So shape D has the largest area because it takes up 5 hexagons, but the perimeter for shape D is not as large because fewer hexagon sides are on the outside of a shape. Here are 5 shapes on a regular grid. Which shape has only one line of symmetry? So a line of symmetry is a line down the middle of a shape where you can have the same reflected on both sides. So for shape A, we could draw a line of symmetry here because if we folded the shape down this side, we would be able to fold the sides or fold this side so that it completely covered this side, the other side, with nothing overlapping. But shape A has another line of symmetry. It has a horizontal line of symmetry because we have the same reflected on both sides. Again, we could fold the shape over down the line of symmetry so that we had this side on top of this side with nothing overlapping. And shape B has 2 lines of symmetry as well, and so does shape C. But shape D only has 1 line of symmetry. Here's our line of symmetry, and we know it's a line of symmetry because if we could fold the shape down this line, then we could fold this side over so that it completely covered this side with nothing overlapping. But we don't have any other lines of symmetry in shape D. And for shape E, we don't have any lines of symmetry. There's no line that we could fold the shape down so that we would have the same reflected on both sides. So the shape with only 1 line of symmetry is shape D. Calculate 144 divided by 6. We can set this out as a short division. Taking the first 2 digits together, 14 divided by 6 is 2 remainder 2. That's because 2 times 6 is 12, and then we need 2 more to get to 14. And now 24 divided by 6 is 4, so our answer is 24. These are all times on the same morning. Write the letters for the times in order, starting with the earliest. So first we have 7:56 a.m. Then we have 7:45. That means a quarter of an hour before 8 o'clock. So that's 7:45, because a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes, and 15 minutes before 8 o'clock is 7:45, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. Now 6 minutes to 8 means 6 minutes before 8 o'clock. So that's 7:54, because 60 minus 6 is 54. And then 7:30 is 7:30. It's useful to remember that if we have quarter to, the number of minutes will be 45, and if we have half past, the number of minutes will be 30. So we can see now that 7:30 is the earliest time, so that's the same as 7:30, so letter D. Then we have 7:45, so that's B, 7:54, so that's C, and then the latest time is 7:56, so that's A. Here is a Venn diagram for sorting numbers. Write each number in its correct place on the diagram. So we need to place the numbers 10, 11, 12 and 13. If we look at our diagram, we can see that we have a large oval for multiples of 2, and then inside of that we have a smaller oval for multiples of 4. Now the reason why multiples of 4 is inside the oval for multiples of 2 is because all multiples of 4 are also multiples of 2. Every number in the 4 times table is also in the 2 times table, because numbers in the 4 times table are always even numbers. So first, let's think about the number 10. That's a multiple of 2 because it's in the 2 times table, but it's not in the 4 times table. So we need to write the number 10 in this section here. Now, the number 11 is not in the 2 times table and, of course, not in the 4 times table. So 11 has to be written on the outside. Now 12 is in the 2 times table and it's in the 4 times table. So we need to write 12 in this section here to show that it's a multiple of 4, but it's also, because it's in this section, inside the larger oval for multiples of 2. And now 13 is not a multiple of 2 or 4, so again we need to write 13 on the outside. Freddie is half as tall as his mother. Freddie is 1 metre shorter than his father. Freddie's father is 180 centimetres tall. How many centimetres tall is Freddie's mother? So first we can work out Freddie's height because we know that Freddie is half as tall as his mother. He is 1 metre shorter than his father, so 1 metre less than 180 centimetres. So to find Freddie's height, we can subtract 100 centimetres from 180 centimetres, because we know that there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre. So Freddie's height is 80 centimetres, and because we know that, we can work out the height of Freddie's mother. We know that Freddie is half as tall as his mother, so we can find the height of Freddie's mother by multiplying Freddie's height by 2. So 80 centimetres times 2 is 160 centimetres. Freddie is 80 centimetres tall, and he's half as tall as his mother because 80 is half of 160. So that's the height of Freddie's mother. Calculate 560 times 28. 0 times 8 is 0. 6 times 8 is 48, so that's 8. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 4 is 44. So now we've multiplied by the 8 in our ones, so on the next line we can multiply by the 2 in our tens. But first we need to remember to cross out our working and write a 0 in our second answer line. So now 0 times 2 is 0, 6 times 2 is 12, so that's 1, 2, and 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So all we need to do now is add up our answer lines, and that gives us 15,680. Here are 5 letters on a scale, so we can see that we have 1 litre and 2 litres marked. Match each letter to one of the capacities in the list below. So first we have 1,200 millilitres, but as our scale is in litres, we can change this to 1.2 litres. Remember, there are 1,000 millilitres in a litre, and if we divide 1,200 by 1,000, we get 1.2. If we're given a measurement in millilitres, we can count 1, 2, 3 place values and put the decimal point here. Then we have 1.7 litres, then 1¼ litres. So that's 1.25 litres, because as a decimal, 1/4 is 0.25, because it's the same as 25 hundredths. Now 1,560 millilitres. That's 1.56 litres, because we can count 1, 2, 3 places, and if we put the decimal point here, that's 1.560, but we don't need zeros on the end of decimals, so we can just write 1.56. And then our last value is 1.07 litres. So what we can do is order these values from smallest to largest so that we can place them on the scale. So we have 1.2, 1.7, 1.25, 1.56 and 1.07. So we have our decimal points lined up, so our ones, our tenths and our hundredths digits are lined up as well. Now we can write zeros in empty squares because you can put zeros on the end of decimals without changing the value of the number. So now we can see that 1.07 is our smallest number, so that must be the point marked at A. Then our next smallest is 1.20 or 1.2, so that will be B. Then we have 1.25 or 1¼ so that's C. Then it's 1.56, so that's 1,560 millilitres marked at D, and then 1.7 will be marked at E, because that's our largest value. Seb has some cubes with a cross on each face and some cubes with a circle on each face. He sticks 5 cubes together to make this shape. How many crosses and how many circles are there on the outside of the shape? So we know that a cube has 6 faces. So first, if we look at the crosses on this cube here, there'll be a cross that we can see here, there'll be a cross on the opposite face round this side, and there'll also be a cross underneath and to the side. So that's 4 crosses altogether. We can also see that 2 of the crosses on the cube will be on the inside of the shape, because it's joined to this cube here and to this cube here. And we also have 4 crosses on the outside here. We have 1 at the top, 1 round here, 1 at the front, and we'll have another cross at the back. So with 4 crosses here and 4 crosses here, there will be 8 crosses altogether. Now we need to think how many circles there will be. We have 5 circles on the outside here, because it's only joined to 1 cube, and all of the other circles are still on the outside, so 1 at the top and then 4 round the middle of the cube. Here we have 4 circles because we can see that 2 of the faces are joined, so 4 of the 6 faces will not be joined. We'll have 4 circles round the middle here, and then for this cube we'll have 5 circles on the outside because only 1 of the faces is joined. So that's 5 plus 4 plus 5, so 14 circles altogether on the outside of the shape. Mina has 5 more marbles than Kirsty. Kirsty has 2 more marbles than Seb. Altogether, they have 30 marbles. How many marbles does each child have? Now here we could use trial and error, but it will become easier for us to understand if we use a bar model. So we have Seb, Kirsty and Mina, and altogether they have 30 marbles. Now Kirsty has 2 more marbles than Seb, so if we copy down Seb's bar, we can copy that bar underneath Kirsty, and because she has an extra 2, we can write 2 in this part here. Now Mina has 5 more marbles than Kirsty, so under Kirsty we have a bar and then 2, so under Mina we can copy what we have under Kirsty, so that's a bar and then 2, but Mina has 5 more, so we can write 5 here. Now 2 plus 2 plus 5 is 9, and 30 minus 9 is 21. So we know that these 3 bars have to have a total of 21. And if we divide 21 by 3, we get 7. So each of these bars represents 7. So Mina has 14 marbles because 7 plus 2 plus 5 is 14. Kirsty has 9 because 7 plus 2 is 9. And Seb has 7. And that makes sense. Mina has 5 more than Kirsty because 14 is 5 more than 9. And Kirsty has 2 more than Seb because 9 is 2 more than 7. And altogether they have 30 because 14 plus 9 plus 7 is 30. This pie chart shows the ingredients to make a food mixture for wild birds. Estimate the percentage of the mixture that is suet. So a percentage is a fraction with a denominator of 100. But rather than imagining the pie chart as being divided into 100 pieces, what I like to do is estimate the fraction and then change the fraction to a percentage. So we have suet here, and if we copy something that's the same size, we can do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So I would estimate that 1/5 of the mixture is suet. We can change 1/5 to a percentage by finding an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. 5 times 20 is 100, 1 times 20 is 20, so because 1/5 is the same as 20 hundredths, that's 20%. You get the mark for an estimate of between 15 and 25%. Now, Mina uses 100 grams of millet in the mixture. Estimate how many grams of sunflower seeds she should use. So we have millet here, and we know that that's 100 grams. Now I would estimate that sunflower seeds is about 3 times as large. So if millet is 100 grams, to work out sunflower seeds, we can multiply 100 grams by 3, so that gives us 300 grams. You get the mark for an estimate of between 201 grams and 399 grams. Write these in order of size, starting with the smallest. So we have 3/4, 0.34, 0.7 and 43%. So we have a fraction, 2 decimals and a percentage. Now we know how to convert between fractions, decimals and percentages, and if we need to compare them, it's useful to make them all either all fractions, all percentages, or what I prefer to do is change them all to decimals. So let's work out what 3/4 is as a decimal. Now to do that, we need to remember that the first digit after the decimal point tells us how many tenths we have, and then the second digit how many hundredths. So we need to find an equivalent fraction to 3/4 with a denominator of 10 or 100. But 10 isn't in the 4 times table, so we need to use 100. 4 times 25 is 100, and what we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator as well, and 3 times 25 is 75. So because we know 3/4 is the same as 75/100ths, we can write that as the decimal 0.75, because the second digit after the decimal point tells us how many hundredths we have. Then we have 0.34, so that's already a decimal, 0.7, and though that's already a decimal, to make it easier to compare, what I like to do is put a 0 on the end so that numbers we're comparing have the same number of decimal places, so have 2 digits after the decimal point. And we can do that because 0.70 is the same as 0.7, so we haven't changed the number, because all this 0 tells us is that we don't have any hundredths, but 0.7 tells us that as well, because 0.7 means we just have 7/10. Now 43%. So percentages are fractions over 100, so 43% is 0.43. So now we have 0.75, 0.34, 0.70 and 0.43. So we can see that 0.34 will be smallest, then 43%, because that's the same as 0.43. Then we have 0.7, and our largest number is 3/4, because that's equivalent to 0.75. In a class, 18 of the children are girls, 1/4 of the children in the class are boys. Altogether, how many children are there in the class? So if we know that 1/4 are boys, that means 3/4 are girls, because 1/4 plus 3/4 adds up to 4/4, and if we have 4/4, we have a whole, so that's all of the children in the class. So we know that 3/4 are girls, and there are 18 girls. So 3/4 of the number of children in the class equals 18. Now normally, to find a fraction of a number, we divide denominator and times top. But here we have a missing number problem, so we need to use the inverse. So we can divide by the numerator and then take that answer and multiply by the denominator. So 18 divided by 3 is 6, times 4 is 24. So that means there are 24 children in the class. 18 are girls because 3/4 of 24 is 18, and 1/4 are boys. 1/4 of 24 is 6. So if there are 18 girls and 6 boys, that's 24 children altogether.